guys know who Abner Doubleday is?
Heard of the name.
Heard the name? Do you know anything about him? No?
Well, when I talk about Doubleday on the battlefield, and when I tell his story, most people, if they're familiar with Abner Doubleday at all, and he's not one of these people that a lot of people know about, if they're familiar with him at all, it's usually because of his connection to baseball. They know him as the guy that either invented baseball or formulated the game or the rules or formalized it. At Gettysburg, he's kind of a bit of a, I won't say forgotten hero, but he does really well at this battle, and his contribution to the ultimate Union victory here is kind of overlooked often. He's in a very particular position. He is a division commander under the direct command of a man by the name of Major General John Fulton Reynolds. And one of the first generals that's killed in the Battle of Gettysburg is this guy Reynolds. And so if you're Abner Doubleday, what that means is you're now in command of the 1st Army Corps, about 10,000 men, on the first day of this battle, which is going to really decide the fate of the Republic. So he has an enormous amount of pressure on him. It's a very chaotic situation, and he does remarkably well. And this is the first time he's ever commanded this many men in a combat situation like he is at Gettysburg. But Doubleday was also political, or he had a lot of political ideologies and thoughts that didn't always gel with the rest of the Union Army. He didn't always get along with some of the other higher-ranking officers. So when the commander of the Union Army arrives, this guy by the name of George Meade, he arrives after all the fighting's been done on July 1st by midnight. One of the first things he does is he takes Doubleday, he removes him from command, and he bumps him back down to where he was. So Doubleday does this great job in the battlefield. He commands his men very ably, and his reward for that is to be essentially demoted from where he was. And Doubleday sees this as a bit of a sting, a bit of an insult. And not long after the Battle of Gettysburg, he's going to essentially resign. He has no real role for the rest of the war in the Army of the Potomac. And so when I talk about Doubleday, I often talk about how sometimes history's not fair. Sometimes how these guys who do these amazing things in this battlefield, because of all these other reasons, get forgotten about, or we don't talk about them, or we don't remember their contribution. And I think Doubleday is a really great example of that.
I knew he was a general here, politician at one time. If I'm not mistaken, he led the battle up by the Copula. I'm probably saying that wrong. I think. I could be wrong. That's about all I can think about Doubleday, because he didn't, it's not the big names I played in with the battle, even though he did play an important role. I knew he was with the Union.
Say about they invented baseball. Apparently that's not the story. He was part of the 1st Corps on the northern part of the field in the fighting in the heavy fighting in the cornfield area. But that's of what he did here would be all that I would. I know that everyone likes to write magazine articles that he didn't do that. I know there's a minor league team up there called the Doubledays, but that's about all I know.
his service here at Antietam Battlefield because he did play an important role. He was a divisional commander responsible for probably over 4,000 soldiers, and it was his men that led the attack the morning of the battle. So this was a 12-hour battle, and his men started it roughly 5:30 in the morning. They led their way south through what's called the cornfield, the famous cornfield. There were more casualties in and around the cornfield than any other spot in American military history. 10,000 soldiers were killed and wounded in 4 hours. That's Union and Confederate combined. And a good portion of those were Abner Doubleday's men. So he had very good service here as a divisional commander. He was a good leader here. And he had a good Civil War career. Fired, as we were just saying, the first Union shot at Fort Sumter in response to the Confederate bombardment, and fought all through the war and survived. And of course, as most people have talked about, invented baseball, which I don't think is true. I think he might have been around the game. It was known as rounders during the American Civil War. It was a different kind of rules and different kind of field and things, but soldiers did play a game similar to that, and he was around it, but I